Shut up, Mark. You don't get to talk to him like that. James is a good man, and he deserves respect, not ridicule. So if you don't have anything nice to say, keep walking.
James stood in the heart of his small, cluttered workshop, the scent of motor oil thick in the air as his hands worked tirelessly under the hood of yet another car. He'd been a mechanic for a while, and while his skills were unmatched, the world around him had never noticed. To them, he was just another poor man with a tool belt, another invisible soul to be looked down on. But James didn't mind. His hands had always been his greatest asset, and he took pride in fixing things that others couldn't. Just last week, a customer had driven an hour back just to shake his hand, calling him a miracle worker for tuning an engine no one else could diagnose. That was his quiet pride. Despite the grime that coated his clothes and the oil stains on his skin, James had a quiet confidence that most didn't see. He wasn't bothered by the fact that others saw him as nothing more than a lowly mechanic. What he longed for was something deeper, a connection that looked past the grease. Every day, he watched the wealthy pass him by, driving their shiny cars and living in towering buildings, but he never felt bothered for once. What he wanted was love, something money couldn't buy. The kind of love that saw a person for who they truly were, not for what they had. But that dream seemed as distant as the stars, something he would never reach. He often wondered if he would ever be seen not as a mechanic, not as a poor man, but simply as James. The thought consumed him at times, but he dismissed it. He was fine alone. After all, he had his work. His hands, the steady rhythm of tools, and the quiet solace that came with fixing broken things. Amara, a 28-year-old lawyer, had always prided herself on her ability to connect with people. At work, she was respected for her intelligence and ambition, yet in the depths of her heart, she knew something was missing. She had everything, a prestigious career, a beautiful apartment, and the respect of her peers, but when the lights went out, and she was alone, she felt an emptiness that wealth couldn't fill. Her success has brought her everything but love. One afternoon, on a whim, her car broke down as she was heading to a meeting. With no time to waste, she pulled into the nearest shop, hoping for a quick fix. As soon as she stepped out of her sleek car, she noticed a man working in the back, tall, rugged, and wearing oil-stained overalls. He didn't look up as she approached, focused entirely on his work. "Excuse me," Amara called, the formal tone of the courtrooms in her voice, hesitant at first. "My car's acting up. Can you take a look? I'm in a hurry." James looked up, his eyes a surprising shade of light brown, and gave a polite but guarded smile. "Sure, I'll take care of it." As Amara watched him work, she couldn't help but be intrigued. There was a quiet confidence about him, but it was also clear that he didn't fit in with the well-dressed men she was used to seeing. His hands were rough, his clothes worn, but his movements were fluid, like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. A few hours later, James told her it was just a sensor issue and it was just a simple fix. "Thank you," she said as he handed her the keys a few hours later. "I didn't expect such a great job. You're not like most mechanics I know." James chuckled, wiping his hands on a rag. "I try my best. It's just work, really." Amara smiled, a genuine smile she rarely offered her colleagues, and made a mental note to return. Something about this mechanic, this man with calloused hands and a humble demeanor, had caught her attention in a way she didn't quite understand. Over the next few weeks, Amara found herself returning to James's workshop more often. Each time, it wasn't just to fix her car but to speak with him, to share moments of light conversation. James had a way of making her feel comfortable, of listening without judgment. The more they spoke, the more she realized how different he was from the men in her life, men who often seemed self-absorbed or obsessed with appearances. James, however, had an easygoing nature, an honesty in his voice that drew her in. They spoke of everything, life, love, and their dreams. Amara had never had a conversation quite like this, especially not with someone like James. He wasn't trying to impress her or make small talk, he was just being himself. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, Amara decided to sit down and have lunch with him at the workshop. They shared a simple meal, and James lied about his life, how he had grown up in a poor neighborhood, working hard to get by. Despite everything he'd been through, there was no bitterness in his voice. But Amara, not knowing that he was talking to a wealthy billionaire covered in grease, but she didn't care. All she wanted was love, not money. Amara looked at him, feeling something stir in her chest. He was humble, yes, but there was something more, something that made her wonder if maybe, just maybe, there was a kind of love waiting in the most unexpected places. One evening, after weeks of casual meetings, Amara asked James to meet her at a restaurant. It was a surprise invitation, something she had been thinking about for a while. James hesitated. The idea of going to a fancy restaurant, a place filled with polished men and women, made him uneasy. He was a mechanic, after all, and he wasn't used to places like that. But Amara was persistent. "You've always been there for me, James. Please, let me treat you to dinner. Just one evening." After much convincing, James agreed. He walked into the restaurant that evening, feeling out of place in his old, worn clothes. The waitstaff glanced at him as he entered, clearly wondering why a mechanic was in such an upscale place. But Amara greeted him with a warm smile, her eyes bright as she led him to their table. "You made it," she said, her voice light and teasing. "I was starting to think you'd change your mind." "I nearly did," he confessed, giving a nervous laugh. "I'm not exactly used to places like this." "You're here now," Amara said, smiling at him with a kindness that made him feel seen. "And that's all that matters." As the evening went on, James started to relax. Amara's laughter, her genuine interest in his thoughts, made him forget his insecurities. For the first time, he felt like he belonged, like he wasn't just a mechanic. He was a man, a person deserving of respect and love. Things began to change between them after that night. They spent more time together, and their bond deepened. But not everyone approved of their growing closeness. One afternoon, as they were walking down the street after grabbing coffee, a group of Amara's colleagues approached them. They were well dressed, their high heels clicking on the pavement. As they passed, one of the men sneered at James. "Amara, darling, who is your friend?" asked Mark, a partner in her firm, his tone patronizing as he looked James up and down. "You haven't stared hiring day help for your personal errands, have you?" "So, Amara, you've got a thing for the mechanic, her," the man said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I didn't realize you were into that kind of lifestyle." The insult stung. Amara's face flushed with anger. Before James could even speak, without thinking, she stepped in front of James, her eyes flashing with fire. "Shut up, Mark," she snapped. "You don't get to talk to him like that." The group stopped, clearly taken aback by her outburst. "Amara, don't you think you're being a bit dramatic?" Chloe said, giving James a dismissive, pitying look. "No," Amara said firmly, "I'm not being dramatic." Her voice carrying a professional steel that silenced. "James is a good man, and he deserves respect, not ridicule. So if you don't have anything nice to say, keep walking." The group exchanged uncomfortable glances but didn't say another word. They walked away, and James, stunned by Amara's defense of him, looked at her with admiration. "I didn't expect that," he said quietly, his voice full of emotion. Amara turned to him, her gaze softening. "No one disrespects the people I care about. Ever." James's heart swelled with gratitude. In that moment, he realized that Amara was someone who truly saw him, someone who loved him not because of what he did, but because of who he was. The weeks passed, and the connection between James and Amara only deepened. They spent more time together, and James began to feel a sense of peace in her presence. For the first time, he felt like he could truly be himself. Amara wasn't just beautiful, she had an inner strength, an intelligence that made her stand out from the crowd. He admired her not only for her career and elegance but for the way she treated others, especially him. But despite everything, James couldn't shake the fear that loomed over him. Amara had never asked about his wealth. She seemed content with their simple moments together, sharing lunch at the workshop or walking through the park, but James couldn't help but wonder what would happen if the truth came out. One day, while they were sitting on a bench overlooking the Lagos skyline, Amara turned to him, her eyes soft yet knowing. "James," she said, her voice gentle but serious, "I need to ask you something. What are your dreams? I know you work hard, but what do you want for yourself? For us?" The question caught James off guard. He hadn't allowed himself to think beyond the day-to-day struggle, but here was Amara, asking about the future. A future he hadn't dared to imagine. "I've always dreamed of something more," James admitted quietly, But I've never thought it was possible. I've never let myself think I deserve it. I'm just a mechanic." Amara smiled warmly, her hand gently resting on his. "James, don't sell yourself short. You are so much more than that." In that moment, James realized that Amara wasn't just talking about the man he was on the outside. She was talking about the heart he kept hidden, the part of him that no one ever saw. And as they sat there, side by side, James began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could be more than just a mechanic. It was during an evening walk through the city that everything seemed to fall into place. Amara took his hand, and as they walked through the crowded streets, James felt a sense of comfort he hadn't known in years. For once, he wasn't concerned about his appearance, his job, or what others thought of him. All that mattered was Amara, the woman who had treated him with kindness from the start. They found a quiet spot in the park, away from the noise of the city. The sun had just set, casting a golden light over everything. Amara stopped and turned to him, her face illuminated by the fading light. "James," she said softly, "I have something to say. I've been thinking a lot about us. About you." James's heart began to race. He had long admired Amara from a distance, never daring to imagine that someone like her could fall for him. But here she was, standing before him, her gaze filled with sincerity. "I care about you," she continued, her voice trembling just slightly. "More than I've ever cared about anyone. And I know it sounds crazy, but I've fallen in love with you, James." His breath caught in his throat. The words he had longed to hear but never expected to be spoken were right there in front of him. "Amara," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I love you too," he said, finally allowing himself to believe that love, real love, was within reach. And in that moment, as the city lights flickered around them, they kissed for the first time. It was soft, tender, and full of promise. James couldn't believe how quickly everything had changed, how the mechanic, the man who once felt invisible, had found love in the most unlikely of places. But as with every story of love, the world had a way of testing it. As James and Amara's relationship grew stronger, so did the judgments of others. It started with small comments from Amara's friends, snide remarks, the kind of whispers that people think are subtle but cut deeply. One evening, as they attended a gala together, a well-dressed man in a tailored suit, a former suitor of Amara's, approached them. He gave Amara a dismissive glance before turning to James with an obvious sneer. "Amara, darling," the man said with a thin smile, giving James a full, condescending appraisal, "I didn't realize you were slumming it with the help. Does the help serve you cocktails now or just oil changes?" The words stung. The words were a calculated strike, but Amara didn't flinch. Without hesitation, she stepped forward, her voice firm. "Don't speak to him like that," she said, her eyes blazing with anger. "James is more of a man than you'll ever be." The man laughed, clearly amused by her defiance. "Really? A mechanic? How quaint. You can buy him out of his shop with a week's bonus, Amara." Amara stood tall, her gaze unwavering. "You may have your wealth and your suits, but you'll never have the heart that James has. And unlike you, he never needed money to make me feel respected. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're leaving." She turned to James, taking his hand and leading him away. "I'm so sorry you had to hear that," she said softly. "People like that don't matter. You matter. I care about you. That's all that matters." James was stunned by her support, her unwavering belief in him. For the first time, he realized that no amount of money could buy that kind of love and support. He had Amara by his side, and that was all that mattered. The time had come. James had known for weeks that he couldn't keep hiding the truth from Amara. She deserved to know who he really was, who he had been all along. The man she had fallen in love with was more than just a mechanic. It was a quiet night when James finally told her. They were sitting together on the balcony of her apartment, the city lights twinkling in the distance. "Amara," he began, his voice low, "something I've been keeping from you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." She turned to him, her brow furrowing in concern. "What is it, James? You are scaring me." He took a deep breath, the confession catching in his throat. "I'm not just a mechanic. I'm a billionaire. I own the company that owns the building you're standing in, among other things." The mechanic shop was a test, my way of finding out if I could be seen without the money. Amara froze, her expression shifting from concern to a flash of hurt and betrayal that cut James to the core. A billionaire, she repeated, the word alien on her tongue. You let me defend you, you let me tell people I loved you, all while knowing you were completely lying to me about who you were. James ran a hand through his hair. I didn't want you to love me for my money. I wanted you to love me for who I am, not for what I have. For a long moment, Amara said nothing. Her mind raced, trying to process what he had just revealed. She had known James as a man who worked hard, who had a good heart. She had never imagined there was more to him than what met the eye. Amara stood up, walking to the edge of the balcony before finally turning back. For a long, tense moment, she processed the lie, the sheer magnitude of the deception. Then, the anger slowly drained away, replaced by the deep, steady light in her eyes that James had fallen for. James, she said softly, walking back and placing her hand on his cheek. I don't care about your wealth. You were right to fear it. But I do care that you hid it. The man I fell in love with was the man with calloused hands who fixed impossible engines and listened without judgment. That's who you are, with or without the money. I love the man who stood by me, supported me, and treated me with respect. The money changes nothing about that. That's what matters to me. James's heart swelled with relief. For the first time, he felt truly understood. The wealth that had once seemed like a barrier between them no longer mattered. What mattered was their connection, the love they shared. With the truth out in the open, James and Amara's love only grew stronger. Amara's friends, initially skeptical of James because of his humble background, came to respect him when they saw the genuine bond he shared with her. They saw the way he treated her with kindness, and they saw the way she stood up for him, no matter the cost. James and Amara built a life together, not defined by wealth, but by love, respect, and mutual understanding. James no longer felt the need to hide behind a mechanic's uniform. He still loved his work, but now he was proud of who he was, proud of the man Amara loved. In the end, James realized that wealth, while it could buy him many things, could never replace the love he found with Amara. And that was worth more than all the money in the world. Together, they built a life filled with love, proving that true wealth was not measured by material possessions, but by the richness of the heart. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, comment, and like my videos. Also turn on the notification for more interesting stories yet to come.